Hey everyone, a big welcome to the Forge Ahead show, hosted by me, Nick Elston, inspirational speaker, creator of unique mental health engagement strategies, a transformational speaking coach, and a mentor to have in your corner. The Forge Ahead show brings you the storytellers, the influencers, the people who have gone from adversity to excitement, forging something better, something beautiful, something powerful. So stay tuned, dive in, and be inspired by today's very special guest. Hey everyone, and a big welcome back to the Forge Ahead Show Season 2, the penultimate episode of the season. So I wanted to welcome back a really special guest in the wonderful Zoe Thompson.
Hello.
Could you actually hear me clap then? That was a good point.
No.
So
it's like a silent clap.
Silent
you need
clap.
to make it more dramatic.
Yeah, it wasn't like a fashionable statement. I wasn't trying to set a new trend or something, but trying out this new noise cancelling software, and it works that well, it doesn't hear me clap. So may have to rethink this. But big round of applause for Zoe. There we go. That's kind of said what I was trying to achieve.
A silent applause.
A silent applause, but you're worth more than that. You know you are. So this is an interesting one, actually, because like I said, you were just telling me that it was around a year ago that we recorded the last episode on Season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's only really hit home to me the past couple of days during the heat wave of we've actually come full circle now, haven't we? That kind of, we were at a really hot kind of time this year, this time last year, and now it's like a heat wave and I'm slowly melting. But so far, so good. My feet's in a bowl of water. I'm not a classy guy. I'll quite happily be open about that. So as this goes out, actually, it has made us realize that we've now come full circle, a full-on kind of period of pandemic and a lockdown. And even though this week has seen the lifting of all restrictions, that kind of massively overplayed Freedom Day kind of expression, everyone's in a different place about this, aren't they? There's a lot of people that are anxious and scared, but there's a lot of people that are really excited about this. And what are you seeing in terms of clients coming to you? Of course, once you've explained to all of this exactly who you are and what you do, there's some people that don't know who you are. And what's that about? I mean, where have they been hiding? Do you know what I mean?
You know who I am. So for those who don't know, hello, I'm Zoe Thompson. I work under Phoenix Life Wellbeing Coaching, which kind of says what it does, or it kind of does what it says on the tin. But I work with people who feel stuck, frustrated, overwhelmed. I work with people who struggle with anxiety and depression, whether that's a GP diagnosis or whether it's the feelings of anxiousness and the feelings of depression and low mood. I help people to get unstuck, find the clarity of what it is they want from life. And the strap line that I like to use, although strap lines sometimes come across as a bit cheesy, is helping people to create the tomorrow that they want, but also at the same time learning to love their today, because I think that's so important, in that you want to have where you're working towards, but also it's so important to learn to love where you're at and find the gratitude and appreciation of where you are at the moment and how you got here, as well as having some focus and wanting to move yourself on and work towards something new. So yeah, that's what I do. And which really kind of, in answer to your question, is a lot of what people are trying to work out at the moment. You know, a lot of people are in a different place A, and a lot of people are trying to work out to a different place B. So, you know, there are some people at the moment where their place A is, you know, the relief that we're changing, that things are opening up. And there's other people who that's creating real unsure uncertainty for them, some worries. And there's also some people that the changes on, you know, this week don't change anything because of medical conditions. And so there are some people who are seeing everybody else changing and are stuck and frustrated at the fact that they can't do the same. So I think there's also lots of personal choice for people, and I think lots of understanding and being respectful of other people's personal choice. It might not mirror your own, it might be a different choice, it might be a different approach or a different response. And I think at the moment we need to understand, or show understanding and show respect, that other people might choose to respond to this in a different way, and that's okay. and it's knowing how you want to respond to it and what works best for you.
And even if you don't agree, isn't it? Because it can be really divisive. I mean, it can be, well, certainly passive aggressive, if not aggressive, if your belief clashes with that of somebody else. I mean, the one that instantly springs to mind is around kind of mask wearing and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's understanding, not assuming, and asking questions, asking open questions to understand. Would you like me to wear a mask? Is it okay for me to, are you comfortable if I remove my mask? Would you prefer to sit outside? Would you like me to open a window? What would help you to feel more comfortable? Because it's about understanding what's important for you, but also being respectful to other people. And you can debate but it's choice, it's opinion. It's not, there are facts within this situation, but a lot of what we're seeing at the moment is choice, it's options, it's opinions, which there's no right or wrong. It's what works best for you. So what works best for you might not be what works best for other people, and you can share where you're coming from and your experiences, and you can ask people to share theirs, but ultimately probably not going to change people's mind on this. So you could just get straight to the acceptance and respect of that's their decision and that's what they want to do.
It does come down to these human to human conversations. I mean, now more than ever, that kind of generalist approach doesn't apply, because literally everybody is in a different place, whether it's slightly different or majorly different. I mean, you are a big feature of my speaking academy sessions, my days, where I bring you in as like the well-being guru, as I like to call you, a resident well-being guru, to keep us all at peak state. And it kind of coaches people. Speaking is life. Speaking is business. Speaking is education. Speaking is confidence. Everything that is that kind of misconception, I think, that speaking is just being on stage in front of people. That's how we really have human to human conversations, isn't it? Is to bring our emotions into play whilst managing our own emotional well-being. And also not doing that judgy thing that we all tend to do when we're speaking to somebody with a different belief or behavior. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think listening is a big part of it. I think quite often we go into these conversations trying to preempt what somebody's trying to say, getting our responses ready, trying to work out what we're going to say in response to it. Whereas actually just taking that step back and listening and being open to hearing what's being said. And it's that, for me, it's that I love the expression, the childlike curiosity of, you don't have to know, you don't need to know all of the answers, you don't need to preempt what somebody is saying. You can just go and listen and learn and understand. And you might not agree. It's not really the aim of the conversation, is sometimes it's just to understand it. And I think that's, with your speaking academy, I think what I love about those is giving people that space to explore, talking through things with emotion, giving themselves permission to talk and express emotions and understand how that can impact a conversation, but also understanding the impact that can have on the person who's listening. So when we speak with emotion and we talk through our emotions, it has an impact on the person that we're speaking to, and that can change the dynamic of the conversation. And I think it's really important for both sides to explore how it feels when you do it, but also to explore how it feels to be on the receiving end of somebody who is open to doing that. Because I think it is a bit of a British thing in that, just stick to the facts. Do not express don't express emotion. Don't make other people feel uncomfortable by something you're experiencing. And how often do we do that, of locking away how we feel because we don't want somebody else to feel uncomfortable by something that we're experiencing? Whereas actually the person on the receiving end of that is not getting the full picture if you do that. So I think it's really important to explore it in how it is to speak with emotion and share your experiences with the emotions included, and also what it's like to feel that and to feel what it's like to be in conversation with somebody who is able and willing to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the huge silver linings from the past kind of, what is it now, 18 months, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, probably in its entirety, that one of the huge silver linings is actually we've been able to work a lot closer together on joint projects and brought you into a lot of the things I've been doing in the spaces I've been working. And apart from being a lot of fun, of course, as well, that has to be said. But there's some real kind of key things that I've learned along the way, which has shaped the way that I will go forward. So your kind of description of fear, false evidence appearing real, that's huge. That really changed the way that I felt a lot about things, not just professionally, but personally as well. But also that kind of, you love playing with chaos. Tell us about chaos.
I love chaos. I don't know why I love chaos. I there's something for me that I thrive in the unexpected. I thrive in the unknown. Interestingly, and I don't know if I've shared this with you, but I met a coach who is in Australia. She messaged me through Facebook because her branding is also the Phoenix, and also she trains in Strong Woman. So she messaged me out of the blue and said, I feel there's this real synergy. I would love to grab a call with you. So I had this call with her, amazing lady, but she uses astrology in her coaching. And she said, I'd really like to read your charts. Okay, cool. Open curiosity. So, okay, cool. Like, I'd love to see what comes up for you. And she said that I was born when Mercury was in retrograde. Now, anybody who, it comes up on social media all the time, doesn't it? Of Mercury's in retrograde, prepare for chaos. And she said that is why I love this chaos and disruption, because I was born when Mercury was in retrograde. There was a whole lot of other stuff that came with the explanation, which we don't have time for. But I think maybe that may well be part of it. But I think also my experience of working in the police, the uncertainty and the unknown was the one thing that was certain and known, was that you knew that in your day, chaos was going to happen. Things were going to get disrupted. And so at 18, when I started, you learned very quickly to control the controllables, something you talk about a lot, being able to identify what was unknown, what could you work with, and almost parking the unknown, and you would deal with that if and when it happened. And I think also, I worked in the sort of control room environment for a while, so taking emergency and non-emergency calls. And part of the process there is you get snippets of information and you have to make decisions on a very small amount of information. And as more information comes through, you reassess and you make a different decision. And so that is very different to how people work in the real world, isn't it? Because what we tend to do is try and sit back until we've got enough information that we then feel comfortable with making a decision. When you're receiving emergency calls or even non-emergency calls, you don't have access to that information, and you can ask the person on the end of the call what they know, but they're not going to have all of the answers. And so I think that also helps, that I learned to work in that environment where you got comfortable with making decisions on a small amount of information, and then you reassessed as more information came in, and you made more, if you needed to, you made a different decision. So it almost feeds into, you do the best that you can with what you know and the skills that you have at that time. And so you don't have all of the answers, you just work with what you've got. And I think that works really well for me now. So I think a lot of it is learned, whether some of it is in the stars, aligned in the stars when I was born, who knows? But I think also a lot of it has been learned. The thing for me now is trying to work that out in business, because actually, realistically, you do need to plan ahead for business. I can't just wait to see what the world throws up. But because I plan 3 months in detail, I have a vision for longer, but I only ever plan 3 months in detail. When the world throws global pandemics into the mix, I've only got to reassess as much as 12 weeks. So that kind of works for me too. But I know a lot of people, when I have these conversations, they're like, I could not work like that. I need to have information. I need to know what the picture looks like. I'm like, but what if you didn't? What if you just went with what you had? And then when more information comes in, you check it again. And if you need to, you decide something different. Very few decisions are permanent. Apart from having children, that's definitely a permanent decision. But so many decisions are not permanent. You can make the decision with what's best for you now, And if more information comes in and you look at it again and you go, okay, I think I need to make a different decision now, that's okay. Some people see that as failure, and other people see it as an assessment and review.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, astrology, who's to say that may have played a part? Very true. Interesting that got thrown your way in that kind of universal kick up the ass that we all need now and then.
Yeah, it completely blew me away, and it wasn't something that I had ever really considered. I mean, I'm an Aries, and I would say that I am a very typical. Feel free to disagree, even though I know you're not going to. Headstrong, stubborn.
Nah, not at all.
definitely the ram. Sure. So I think there's something in it, but yeah, it was just really interesting. And again, just coming into that conversation with that curious, open mind of just really listening to what, her explanations of, my character and life that's gone, life ahead. Yeah, really interesting.
And it does so align not just with your ethos, but with your backstory as well. That, like you said, that Phoenix and the Flames, that kind of that you've surfed the waves of chaos to kind of really achieve what you've achieved.
Yeah.
And for those, actually, episode 1 is only on YouTube. Actually, it's not on the podcast stream. So people that are new to you, I mean, we first met at the Theatre Royal in Bath.
Mm-hmm.
It's posh, isn't it? Posh for you.
Yeah. And that was this time of year as well.
It was, yeah. There's a commonality coming through here. And that was for the World Health Heroes, an organization at the time looking at the well-being space. And we were both delivering keynote talks. And first time our kind of worlds collided. And I had the real pleasure of listening to you tell your story, which is so powerful. Not just from the root, but also from what you went on to achieve. So give us a kind of an overview of your kind of backstory and what's led you to what you do today. And don't forget the Red Bull story, because you're so modest, it's untrue.
So the highlighted version, the blurb on the back, as they say.
The blurb on the back,
or the non-waffly version, as my son would say, is that so my son is now 19, so this kind of goes back to when he was pre-primary school, married, young child, not in a great place. The marriage wasn't healthy. I wasn't healthy, mentally and physically, not in a great place at all. As with all of these things, there's the catalyst for change. The change for me, or the catalyst for me, was losing a close friend of the family in the London bombings, and just really kind of having that, as like you said, as life does sometimes. It's like, okay, you're not listening, so we're going to put something here that's going to make you stop and listen. And for me, it was just that kind of assessment of, she was 2 years younger than me, of, her life was tragically, taken away. And we had kind of quite similar characters in sort of that kind of vibrant love for life. And I looked at, how she was, and realized how much I had changed and how much I had really lost that kind of vibrant character and love for life that she had that had been taken away. And so that, for me, along with lots of other things, was kind of my, okay, stop and think, okay, what do you need to do? And wasn't easy by any means, but just kind of coming out of that marriage and then just starting the rebuild, and it for me, it was Phoenix from the Flames. It did feel like a complete rebuild. It wasn't a reboot or a Zoe version 2. It felt really much that kind of that flattened ashes of, okay, we're starting fresh. What do you want? What do you want to bring with you, and what do you need to kind of leave behind and kind of leave in the ashes, so to speak. So physical change it felt like the easiest thing to do first was, okay, work on the physical changes, and that helped me to feel back in control of things. It helped to change lots of things for me, just kind of getting started off running because as a single parent, and a 5-year-old, there's only so many things that you can do. He would ride his bike, I would run. He cannot ride in a straight line. Mind you, neither can I. So it was always interesting trying to get out there. But then, to be fair, I wasn't running particularly fast at that point anyway, so it didn't make much of a difference. But that then led, as he got a little bit older, being able to go into the gym. When I got into the gym, met a personal trainer, and he said, okay, you're doing loads and loads of cardio, try the weights. The weights led to lots of new strength and conditioning training, which again, kind of, although there were lots of physical changes happening, it was really starting to pick up mentally. I was pushing myself. I was pushing through that I can't, it hurts, it's too heavy, all of those things. I was pushing past. And that really kind of led to me pushing myself out of the comfort zone in other areas as well. You said to mention the Red Bull. So ultimately, the strength and conditioning training led to finding strongwoman as a sport. And that kind of took off on its own. So when I tell my story, I talk about the yes years, and that although physically I had changed, mentally and emotionally, I was still in the same place in so many different ways. And my confidence and self-esteem was still pretty low. So I started to just really start to force myself to say yes to things, and not becoming the yes person when it wasn't working for me, but the times where the fear and, oh my God, are you sure you want to do that? When I felt that was the, okay, yes, and just started saying yes to things. And that made a huge difference, but it also ended up with me going to a Strong Woman Open Day. And as we were leaving, they said, we're running a competition. Do you want to sign up? No, not really. Okay, yes. And then that led to competing in Bristol. Found out I was actually all right at it, which led to my PT, who was great at kind of challenging what I thought I was capable of and what he thought I was capable of. Big difference at that point. And he said, you're strong here in and amongst your peers, but what you like in and amongst other people elsewhere. I think it would be good for you to go and do a regional competition, just see where it is. Regionals led to nationals led to sort of UK, and UK led to Europe, all in a space of 12 months. So it was a pretty fast journey. And that just from saying yes and kind of putting the work in and seeing what happened. And so Red Bull followed. They were looking for people to do like a little mini documentary. I volunteered because yes. So I volunteered. And they wanted to follow people who had qualified at Britain's, and in between so they were at Britain's, and then they wanted to film people between Britain's and Europe's. So put my name forward, had a couple of sort of phone calls with different people from Red Bull, which was quite surreal in itself. And then, this film crew turned up, and so on the first day we're driving to the gym, and I said, how are you getting on with the other girls? You having to travel much to do this? And he went, what other girls? I was like, the other girls that you're filming. It's like, there's just you. Okay. So a great.
Fantastic, you're that big a deal.
It was just very, very surreal. A guy from London came down. Occasionally there were a couple of them, and they filmed training and they filmed at home and different bits and pieces. So it's a great memento to have. But I also love how it's really interesting, isn't it, how you tell your own story and how somebody takes your story and tells it for you. But they were great. They handled it really sensitively, and I'm proud of it. But it's just very strange to sit and watch, and also because time has also moved on since then. So to get you from there to now, in the final year of me competing, I found out I was being made redundant. And it all just kind of, again, these things have a funny way of lining up, don't they? So it was my
that's
final
the police service, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I'd been there 20 years. So that was a huge change for me. There was a period of time where I knew that I was going to the time where it happened. And, you know, being a single parent, working full time, training sort of 15, 16 hours a week and trying to get into a headspace to compete, it was all just, it was a lot to kind of work with. So my last competition was England, the second time, picked up an injury in the first event, carried on through because the last event was a monster truck pull, which I'd always wanted to do. So just kind of kept going. But I made the decision after England's that, you know, it was my son's GCSE year coming up. He needed my time and attention. I was going self-employed. That needed my time and attention. And you know, there's only so many hours in a day and you can only have so many competing priorities. So for me, it was better for me to make the decision to step away than it was to try and make all of the plates, keep all of the plates in the air. So that was 2017. So my fourth birthday, business birthday, is coming up August. August coming up. So that'll be 4 years. Thank you. Yeah, that's so huge. 4 years of Phoenix. So that's, I don't know how long I just talked for, but that's still the short version. When you get to this age, there's a lot to cover, isn't there?
Yeah, and then this happened. No, honestly, that was perfect. So how have you found it being self-employed, running a business, having to be that person to say that I'm good at this? Because I know that doesn't always come really easily to you to kind of blow your own trumpet in the nicest possible way. That can be quite difficult sometimes, couldn't it?
It is difficult, and I think also it's one of those. It's an industry where, you know, you say life coach, it has a bit of a reputation. I think especially here in the UK, it has a different reputation to how it has a reputation elsewhere. And so I think that always kind of sits in the back of your mind of being seen as a professional and being taken seriously. Yeah, my son jokes all the time and says, "Oh, it's not even a real job," but he's quite happy to take money from my not real job. So there is that. But it's that I think there's that dynamic. I think there's a kind of a settling kind of element that coaches and people who are looking to work with a coach is a very individual choice. So it's finding people who you can work with, and people choose you based on the connection and how they think you can help. So it's not it's competitive, but not in a strict sense, because there's more than enough work for all of us, and actually people will choose who they feel that connection or rapport with. So you're not directly competing with other coaches, which means it's a very supportive kind of network, which is great. But I think just in the same with everything else, of seizing opportunities and also just pushing out of that comfort zone. I did a training program last year, which was a global coaching program. And you had to go through an interview process to do it. And I signed up and I got through the interview process, had a place on the program. It's run by, they're known as the Two Davids, but they're sort of internationally renowned coaches. I think one of them was the coach who coaches the CEOs at Google and huge companies. And they're doing the introductions and looking through, as people are signing up, and they're giving their introductions. And these are sort of business executive coaches of Fortune 500, even worlds that not my world at all. And I think I spotted one other sort of lifestyle wellbeing coach in there, and I thought, okay, this is going to be really interesting, because I deliberately chose it because it was a practical program. So you had with each module, you learned different frameworks, different techniques, but then you practice them in a room with other coaches, a Zoom room with other coaches. So it was amazing. I got to learn these different techniques and practice coaching with coaches from Singapore, Dubai, Australia, America, India. I mean, it was amazing, and kind of understanding and learning from different people. But I felt so out of my comfort zone. But being assessed by other coaches, by your peers, and then sort of the leaders on the course, I think having come through that gave me that little bit of reassurance of, okay, I can step into that world with different coaches in different with different types of coaches, and stand in my space and be confident in how I coach and who I am as a coach. And I think that has really helped. I mean, that's taken three years to feel comfortable, but I also don't want to feel comfortable, because I don't want to get complacent. I want to be learning. I want to learn different types of coaching, different frameworks, because we, you know, from my point of view as coaches, we need lots of tools in the toolbox, because people are different and people want different approaches. So for me, it's using my experience with the police of having that diversity in my experience, but also bringing that into coaching. So not coaching a particular demographic and not coaching a particular problem, but actually, you know, people joke and say, I've got so much going on, I don't know where to start. And I'm like, that's my ideal client. Yeah. Because it's that chaos, you know, it's people who really don't know where they are, let alone where they want to get to. That's my ideal.
It's kind of like you step into the eye of the storm and you can just see everything going on around you. That's cool. But you are, seriously, I'm not saying this because you're on the call and I consider you a friend as well, but you are one of the hardest working coaches that I know. One of the hardest. You're always learning, always developing, always studying. And that does show through in your work, that has to be said. You actually touched on two really interesting points there that I've kind of semi-joked on a show before, that after spending years in business-to-business sales and partnerships and account management, actually I find the well-being space far more precious and competitive and mistrusting than the business-to-business environment ever was. And I think maybe there's just that there is that mentality sometimes of that everyone's chasing the same pot. And it, like you said, is absolutely not. That there is enough work for everybody. And it does tap into that the taboo stigma element of things like counselling, especially in the UK. As you said, when I deliver to US audiences, and I say that, as you know, in my talks, I say that every Friday I have counselling. In the UK, it's like, he said what? This guy's nuts. Why is he on the call? Whereas in the US, who doesn't? Like, what's so special about that?
Yeah,
these two different, and I think coaching and life coaching, especially in the UK, can be thrown into that mix. But maybe it's the lack of vision that breeds that competitive element. That you can go to a networking meeting and there'll be 7 well-being professionals in the room, and sometimes it kind of gets into that kind of bun fight mentality, which kind of comes away from the point, really, isn't it? We're all kind of going into that space to help people in our own ways, to collaborate over being seen as competition. As you know, I very clearly define my niche as non-solution focused.
Yeah.
Really, it's a lot of times to put people at ease. I shouldn't have to justify myself before I go into a space, but I kind of do to make people feel comfortable. What's been your experience as somebody who's been doing this solo for 4 years in that kind of networking and small business environment?
I think it's very much down to the individuals in the room. I think there are. I know when I first started, so you're talking 4 years ago, and a little bit before that, where I was starting to put things in place, that there was that kind of joke that, well, if everybody's a coach these days, everybody calls themselves a coach, whereas you could be a mentor or a consultant or an advisor or lots of other different words that you could choose from. But there were lots of people who were rebranding and using coach. So I think from my perspective, it's just being confident in that professional ability, and holding that space of actually knowing that you're not the same as everybody else in the room. There could be 10 life coaches in the room, but I know how I coach. I know who I am as a person, and being confident and comfortable to talk about who you are and what you do, knowing that even if the next 60-second pitch or the next person talks about what they do has the same title, the chances are they will probably approach things in a different way, or they're looking to work with a different kind of client. And so I think it's just knowing that it's an interesting, it's a bit like when people talk about equality and inclusion, there's this scarcity fear, isn't there, that there's not enough to go round. But even if we gave, firstly, I truly believe there's a seat for everybody at the table, and people should already be sitting there. But ultimately, if they're not already sitting at the table, when they take their seat at the table, they are also contributing to what's on the table. So they are still adding. They're not just sitting at the table and taking, they're sitting at the table and also adding. So it's the same in the coaching and wellbeing space. The NHS are, they're doing their very best with what they've got. They don't have enough to be able to support what is needed at the moment. The wellbeing industry, coaches, therapy, counselling, it's all needed. So it's all about us being able to step forward to say, I can help, this is how I can help you, and to give the individuals who are looking for support the options to choose the type of support that they feel will work for them. But there's enough space around the table. There's a seat for everybody there, because everybody's bringing something to the table.
Absolutely. That should absolutely be the ambition. You're quite right. But maybe it's that kind of the like you said, the scarcity mentality, or in the private world, obviously the last time I checked, the mortgage doesn't get paid on dreams and missions. So you do need to bring in an income, and if things are tight, then you do go to that kind of acting from a position of fear again. I've only got an open up LinkedIn at the moment, and I'm getting sales messages all the time for jobs that I used to do. Oh, I need an office furniture person. That's not me anymore. Do your research, kind of thing. But it kind of drives people to do things that you probably wouldn't do if things were okay. And I think that's kind of where they need you. It's kind of where I need a coach is to keep their shit together. Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think with that scarcity, that fear, people worry, but it is about, for me, when I set out, I made it very clear right from day one, I wanted coaching to be as inclusive as possible for people. I didn't want people to see it as it's something that only CEOs have. And I also didn't want people to think that it's only people that at rock bottom have. I wanted people to see that there's a benefit for everybody. And so inclusion in terms of being online from day one, about having that kind of range of products or services that are free right through to kind of those top packages, so that there is something for everybody. That was really important to me. I'm like, the messages that I get on LinkedIn are people that are going to make me 10 figures in a month, which actually also, if you did the research and read the profile, you would see that that's not what I'm looking for. That I've done my career world. This is something that I love to do. Yes, it pays the bills, but also I want that balance of a life to live as well.
Absolutely.
I do work hard, but I also want to be able to do that on my terms, which again, something else that's taken a few years to work out, but getting there with it. So I think different people have got different approaches. Some people want to work with businesses and earn 10 zeros a month. Fair play, all fair, that's great, that's what you want to do. But actually for others, it's a different success, looks very different to different people. And so again, it creates that different space in the room. Absolutely.
Earlier in this season, we had a lady called Taz Thornton on the show. So Taz is very kind of what's the word, very visible, should we say? In every aspect, she's very visible. And we were talking about this kind of thing that there are going to be times where, taking the approach that we try to do, very open, very inclusive, very trusting, that there will be situations or people or events or whatever that will take advantage of that. But it's that case of the resilience to not stop trusting, to not stop trusting again. Otherwise, it will change everything. And what Taz was saying was around this fact that she because she is very visible. She's very open about things like sexuality and gender and all these things that she covers in her world of coaching. She attracts a lot of negativity and trolling and different stuff back. Now, I know she's probably on one extreme of things, but have you ever had people like either taking advantage of your open nature, or have you had people that have called you out? Maybe it's an audience when you've been speaking, maybe it's because of the niche that you work in.
So the whole troll negativity online, I've not experienced. I wonder whether it's more to do with the content that I put out. It's more because about that inclusiveness. I'm not saying things to provoke a response or to separate my ideal client from my non-ideal client, which I know what sometimes happens is people put content out that deliberately separates and keeps the people that like that stuff and puts off the people who don't. I don't use that approach. The content that I put out is deliberately, I sit and question, is this inclusive? Would this connect with certain people? But on the next day, I will put out something that might connect with a different group of people. So again, it's that for me, that's a very deliberate approach. It's not what certain people would advise, but that's the approach that I've chosen to take. So I don't really kind of get that kind of pushback online. Have I had people who take advantage? Absolutely. Will I change the way that I work because of that? No. And the same in personal life as well. If you put that out there will be some people who take the mick, but ultimately I'm not changing who I am or the way that I work. That's for them and their conscious to sit and wrestle with. And if they're completely oblivious to the fact that they've done that, then there's no point in me spending time worrying about it. If they don't even realize that they have done that and they've crossed that line, then I'm not going to waste my energy over it. I'm not going to change who I am or change my approach to things because other people have a different set of values or see things differently. It's too much time worrying about it. And also at this big old age, you can't make too many changes. I think this what you see now is what you get.
I think then it comes, actually that's brought, not intentionally because I'm not that clever, but it's brought it right back to the beginning of this episode, where actually the key is then acceptance. So whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, we are exactly where we are right now. But it's people like you that help people to move on to that next stage. And
acceptance with who you are and where you are is a really important first step, because if you don't know, you've got to work on you first and where your starting point is to be able to understand what a good next step for you is. So that acceptance of who you are, what do you like that you want to keep hold of, and what are you ready to let go of is a really, really important first step.
Absolutely. I mean, that's been a huge part of kind of my therapy since January, and it's obviously through James Hall, who will be on the show next season, and somebody that you put me in touch with. So that's fantastic, and that's been a huge part for me. And it's really interesting that the people that also throw into the mix, Helen Taylor-Jay as well. So the people that I consider my kind of trusted network to refer people to, you all know each other and are connected and have a great relationship too. I liked that, and it kind of think it highlights that kind of mentality of what we're all trying to achieve as a non-solution focused person and as solution focused people such as yourselves. So I love that. And as you know, and you know this from the Speaking Academy as well, because every month you have to give me a song suggestion. So just kind of entertain me. Let me do this thing. Now the MC, the O2 Arena, 20,000 people have paid our hard-earned money to come and hear you do your thing. I'm just about to announce you to the stage, and your walk-on music kicks on. That song that motivates you, that lifts you, that inspires you to go on at peak state and to deliver your very best. What would that track be?
Jill Scott, Golden.
Never heard of this song up until last year. Now I can't stop playing it. Thank you to you in my head all the time.
The lyrics, just that, music is great for. I had this conversation with somebody literally last week about how sometimes when you can't find the words, music is great to be able to express how you feel without having to say it in your own words. But I mean, it's just, yeah, there's so much about her song about taking back control, taking back your freedom, but not just kind of that survival. It's like that step forward of, I'm not just going to take it, I'm going to like really run with it. Of, yeah, there's just, yeah, taking my freedom, putting it in my stroll, and I'll be high stepping, letting the joy unfold. It's not just that kind of survival mode. That song just bursts with joy for me.
Other side of survival. Love that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Great song.
So a few more things to throw into the mix before we wrap up. So tomorrow, for the final episode of the season, we have Dan Adozi. Dan is somebody that you know very well.
I do.
You work and socialise and everything else with the Bristol Flyers basketball team. Tell us about your role with the team, with the squad.
So my role, I don't even, trying to think even what year it started. My son started playing basketball in primary school. He has last season played with the men's team with Bristol Flyers, but he's trained with Bristol Flyers since he was about 10. My role with the Flyers team came as, sitting there as a parent and seeing lots of people running around doing stuff, and muttered those fatal words of, is there anything I can do to help? And since then I have learnt to drive the minibus. I have learnt to table official. Last season, because of COVID, I was disinfecting the balls, taking the temperature of the players when they came in, doing the COVID checklist.
My head's exploding here. There's so many punchlines coming into my head.
Yeah, sorry. I have to be very careful how I say that. And what else have I done? Cooked for the team, traveled with the team on away days. So yeah, it's and a huge part of my world of friends, and they say Flyers family. It is an extended family. So yeah, Dan, one of the players for the last couple of years, came to us straight out of college and is now on to his next steps in his journey. So yeah,
so Dan in all his full force will be with us tomorrow for the last episode of the season. What a way to bring the curtains down. Literally, yeah, he's huge. Finally, next week we have what is going to be the last scheduled online speaking academy that is planned. I say scheduled for two reasons. Firstly, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Secondly, that as you know, we've been getting people from all over the world joining us. Actually, there may be still a space for the online one. So that's going to be cool. You are one of our keynote speakers. What will you be speaking about?
I will be. So my intention is to share some of my story, but because it is the Speaking Academy, to talk about why I choose to share those certain elements, and
Amazing.
Then what I take into consideration when I deliver it, dependent on the audience. So
that's huge.
Story and some learning in there as well. That's the intention.
Fantastic. I didn't know you were doing that. So that's amazing. It really does align well with what we do. So, and also we'll have our good friend Mark Brinson delivering the other keynote, talking about his stuff. So that's exciting. Mark is the founder of Jack's Radio. He is a professional speaker himself, speaks on grief, and has worked as an ambassador for Headway. Lots of different things. Mark's an interesting guy. So really excited for that one. But then August, we are back in person and everything. Touch wood. In the heart of Bristol. And that's going to be weird. Like me and you back in person again. Like we were so used to seeing heads on the screens for so long. But that's going to be fun.
Have to I'll text you from the other side of the room, like the chat box.
Yeah, open up a Zoom call or something. That'd be really cool. But that's going to be fun. I mean, so for people that have never been to one of my Speaking Academy events, I like to say that you keep us at peak state. So with the emotional exercises we do, you kind of either bring us down sometimes if we're getting a bit or you can lift us back up again. And you're the puppet master of the day pretty much, which is really cool. I like that. It takes the responsibility away from me. But when it comes to helping people in person, how's that going to look?
That is something I have been giving some thought to. So I think there'll be some benefits in that it'll be much easier to read the room in terms of body language, things that aren't said. Because I think at the moment people turn their cameras off, take a moment, and I message them to kind of check in and have conversations with them away from the rest of the group. Mm-hmm. Whereas in person, you can't switch your camera off. So I think there will be parts of it that will be easier for me to read the room, but I think also it's just helping give people that support. Just knowing that there is somebody there supporting them will be that reassurance. But yeah, I can't wait to do it in person.
Isn't it? So links to both of those events are in the bio, so please do check that out and do join us. We'd love to have you along. But for now, and we'll be back season 3, absolutely, no questions about it. But for now, big round of applause to Zoe Thompson. I am clapping now, even though the noise cancelling thing is something I'm not.
You have to put some sound effects in.
Yeah, just a massive crowd or something. Like I've got loads of people in my garden, which is not illegal anymore, which is really cool. Anyway, Zoe Thompson, big thank you for being on the show, and thank you for being on the penultimate episode of the season. Big pleasure to have you along. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for everybody else, please stay tuned for tomorrow. So tomorrow we have the amazing Dan Adozi, professional basketball player, motivational speaker, does a lot of work with young adults and students around that space as well. So really excited to have him along. You won't miss him, I promise you. And he will be the last episode of season 2. Season 3 will look to kick back off again 1st of October. So we're having a little bit of a holiday, let everybody else kind of recharge their batteries. But for now, be well, stay happy, see you soon, and take care. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.
And that's a wrap. A big thank you for tuning in to today's show. Please stay tuned and hit subscribe for future episodes, bringing you amazing guests, sharing amazing content and amazing insights. Really excited to bring you these. The Forge Ahead show is sponsored by nickelston.com. If you want to connect with me, you can find all the ways possible through the website. If you want to drop me a message, always great to hear from you. But in the meantime, if I don't catch you before, I'll see you at the next episode. And you take care, guys. Cheers now. Bye. Bye-bye.